these intelligence agencies don't seem to be in agreement with where the virus came from. Do they have anything else than circumstantial evidence in pointing to this Wuhan lab?
Absolutely. I mean, you have to remember that when it does come to the intelligence agencies, they don't all speak with one voice. There are a number of different agencies that do intelligence. They did put out an official report saying that they don't believe that this was man-made. They're not sure that it could come from a laboratory. There's been some possibility that the virus began in one of China's wet markets, which is a market where animals are sold for food. There's the possibility that it began there. But at this point, I think it is very premature to say that this began in a lab or that this was done with China's purposeful intention to do it.
Emily, in the meantime, we're seeing, of course, the ratcheting up of these to and fro between Beijing and Washington, and Mike Pompeo has become kind of the new target when it comes to the Chinese side.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, these statements originated with Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State, and you've seen China sort of come back against sort of what the U.S. has said. I mean, Trump's continually revised upward estimates of the amount of deaths. China's sort of saying, hey, we're doing a better job than the U.S. is on this. There's been a bit of a competition between the U.S. and China when it comes specifically to the coronavirus as to how well they're handling it, as to how much they're helping other countries. And so this is something that, we are now in, this is May at this point. We've been dealing with this in some form since January. It is beginning to come very much politicized with the U.S. and with China.
What are we expecting in the reopenings of these states as the president continues to make that push?
We've seen a number of states start to reopen. We're going to see California open some more on Friday. We've seen Georgia. We've seen Texas open in bits and pieces. A lot of these openings are limited. They aren't simply all restrictions are off. There are still restrictions on wearing masks. There's still restrictions on keeping social distancing, even inside places like restaurants and movie theaters. I mean, this is something that President Trump really wants to encourage. He wants to see the economy back and strong, in part because that was what he was going to run on in November of 2020, was this very strong economy. So he's very eager to see that come back. He's eager to see the number of those who are unemployed, rebound a bit. And so at this point, he's very encouraging of states doing this, but we'll have to see what happens for these states that are taking these steps and removing these restrictions. We're watching very closely to see whether we're going to start seeing the number of cases and the number of deaths jump in those states.
Emily, this is quite clearly playing into, as you say, his re-election campaign and, of course, the rhetoric and the sort of war of words and potentially of tariffs again with China also playing into that. Is there any indication of how well that's playing with the broader public and his own base?
You're definitely seeing a number of Republicans join President Trump in calls for opening the economy, for getting back to business, people getting back to work. And you're also seeing in a number of states, Michigan, Ohio, you've seen this big protest with individual citizens coming in and saying, we're tired of staying at home. We're tired of not being able to work. We want things to reopen. So you are beginning to see a bit of that energy and a bit of that backlash to those shutdown policies. And I think, once again, it's going to be a matter of, all right, if we're going to lift it, what's the result going to be? Because that's the reason that we were locked down in the first place, was concern over everyone's health. And now the question is, now that we've been through this period, is it safe to begin lifting restrictions? And what will the result be?